Hello, Star Wars CCG players, fans, and folks who just don't want to watch football tonight. Or today, I guess. It's noon. Today. Garrett Larson here, Dead Body on the forums and Slack and everywhere else. Here to bring you some retro top 4 OCS action. We have Joe Horbey, How Did We Get Into This Mess? Versus Brad Kippel, B. Kippel. The retro OCS top 4, it is Premier to Death Star 2 format. We've got Brad on ROPS, starting mobilization points, oppressive enforcement, and arrest order. And we had Joe on Throne Remains, starting with the careful planning for the swamp and the farm, which means he's going to be going for the nudge choke. So what that means, the swamp can pull a nudge. The nudge eats the dark side icon. Joe with 2 Twixes in his opening hand. Oh, that is a beautiful start for him. This is a match play format. They'll play each side here today, and it's going to be total differential to see who goes into the championship. The second game of the top 4 is actually going to start in about an hour, and it's going to be streamed on Eddie Swabowski. I think I pronounced that right. I hope I did. If not, I apologize, Eddie. On his Twitch stream, which is nrabbit. And then there'll be a multi-Twitch setup that I believe our boy James Martin, the awesome marketing and hype guy, put together. That's going to show them both if you want to watch both games at once. I'm way too ADD to manage that. I'm lucky to get one game in. But we're doing that. So Joe drops a nudge. Like I said, he dropped 2 Twixes from his opening hand and says go. That is a spectacular start. Just got to check here. And Brad took Milwaukee, or Wilhelmu, with mobilization points. So he's also trying to choke a little bit. That's not really what ROPS is best at. So this is going to be interesting because especially if Joe drew another Twix or 2 in that activated force, he's going to be massively out activating Brad real quick. Now, all his stuff costs a lot to go to Raltier. Raltier has a Rebels Deployed +2. In this era, in this format, there's not a lot of great non-rebels. Like, you're going to see Twaska and Melas probably, but basically everyone else is rebels, and Brad throws down a docking bay from reserve, a docking bay from hand, a Raltier sight from hand, and a Raltier sight from reserve. So Joe's activating 12 force and has 10 cards in hand. Oh, Joe is going with Elams. So the Elam deck has always been sort of the bane of ROPS. Elams are kind of wimpy little characters, but they're power +3 at the same side as an Imperial. ROPS wants to throw down Imperials. So, like Joe's power there, he says it's 3, but if an Imperial comes down, it's 12. And we see Civil Disorder and Never Tell Me the Odds inserted. Joe's just playing mean. Like, there's nothing nice about this. His Elams are all Destiny 4. Joe did not search for a nudge. I think he might have forgotten he could get another one, or he may only be playing 1. And just said, you know what, I like having the farm as a battleground if I need it. He didn't draw any Twixes, which I'm sure he would have liked to draw, but in the grand scheme of things, this turn is pretty solid. Brad activates all of it. He does not pop Never Tell Me the Odds, which is good for him. And uses arrest order. He misses on the docking bay pull, which doesn't necessarily shock me. There may not be another docking bay in there. If there is, there's probably just one. It's probably the Death Star 2 docking bay, and he may have just activated it. Uses Raltier to drop the forest. There's a Chokelord Vader in front of the Elams. That's a solid spot for Brad. He can certainly battle, likely choke out an Elam. The thing is, even 2 Elams are still outpowering Vader. Like, there's the choke, and he does hit it with the Emperor, so 1 Elam is going to die. But again, Joe's still up in power. And let's see what the Battle Destiny draw is here, because Joe really just wants to clear him. So Brad draws a 2, which is just 1 Elam. The Elams are each a 3/3. So, and there's a 4. So Joe actually wins the battle by 4. Brad's going to have to decide if he wants to peel, and Brad is going to peel. He loses the Evox from used. Joe loses an Elam. That does kill Civil Disorder, which is very good for Brad, and part of why I think he left Vader in play. And Joe playing Narshada Wind Chimes to go grab another Elam. It immediately gets grabbed with Hell to Pay. None of this is super surprising right now. Like, this is how we expect all of this to go. We're still in battle phase. I do sort of expect Lieutenant Endicott to stay sitting at that docking bay just for the bonus activation. There's very little benefit to moving him to Rail Tier right now, and yet Brad goes and draws everything, so he's got no force left. That's a little bit of a surprise. ROPS did traditionally run some barriers, and it's always a little scary leaving a guy alone, but it's not a terrible risk. Joe's going to activate. He gets 13 here, and I assume he's going to activate all of it. It really is a question of what's in his hand, because it's going to be hard to go after Vader. Vader's immune to less than 5. Vader's going to choke out an Elam if you deploy one. This is not a spectacular spot for Joe, but at the same time, he might just spread. Yep, and there's an Elam to the jungle, which is a drain -1 site, and you're not really trying to drain there. You're just trying to keep Brad from comfortably flipping. And Joe just says, yep, I'm going to get my 3 Elams. I'm going to get my 12. And again, no nudge pull. Starting to wonder if he's only running 1. Be a little bit of a surprise. Like, traditionally, you're going to run 2 there. And he certainly hasn't lost it for any reason. There, Brad gets hit with the Never Tell Me the Odds. That's going to hit him for 8 force, which is... ouch. And Brad's just peeling. There's really not much he can do there. This is one of the reasons with ROPS in this era. You very traditionally started with You Can't Hide Forever instead of the Oppressive Enforcement, because numbers is just so brutal when it hits. You know, and Joe's in a nice spot here. He's got his 3 Elams. He's got a 12-card hand. I expect we'll see another Never Tell Me the Odds drop here next turn. The Drain of 1 at the docking bay. Joe loses. Honor of the Jedi. Pretty reasonable drop. Brad goes for the Verify again with Arrest Order. So I think he's just looking to see what's in there. He may not have another docking bay in there. Like I said, if he had another one, it'd be the Death Star 2 docking bay, and that would probably be unnecessary. So not a huge shock to see him pulling this. He goes for the Rail 2 site or a non-unique Imperial. It might actually be an Imperial here. Yep, there's the ATST pilot. So I think Brad's going to go for the flip here, mostly because he's got to get something going. There's the ATST pilot. There's Lieutenant Arnett. And there is Colonel David John. What in the blue heck just happened on my screen? We're going to do a quick refresh here because I don't know what... Alright, I don't know what happened. Something was being silly. So, I'm going to do a refresh here and see if it cleans up those piles, though. There we go. So, we've got Brad getting himself flipped. But, like, you're not going to start that battle with Colonel David John. That's all kinds of bad. And there's Commander Meejerk, and Meejerk's going to get a battleground system, which probably Kashyyyk, yep. And that may have been why we saw the Arrest Order search, is you wait till you have the system there, and there's the draw. So Meejerk's going to be Battle Destiny +3. So that's a total of 4, or +4, excuse me. So that's a total of 5. Alright, I don't know that I love that play. I don't hate it. Like, you're killing 2 Elams and you're losing Colonel David John. But now you're going to have to reinforce your... You're going to have to move one of the ATST pilots or Arnett together. And that allows Joe to flip you back. pretty quickly. That being said, right now Joe's not. Joe's damage has really just been that numbers, and he's lost 4 Elams already, which is starting to add up. Like, there's only so many Elams in the deck, and you know, Brad started off on his back foot with that numbers hitting for a bunch, but he's played this very well comparatively. And here's the Joe playing the signal after he activates 3. My guess is he's grabbing that order to engage. We just saw him. Oh, no, battle plan. Okay. Because he's not really intending to drain. This is definitely not a drain intent deck. And making Brad pay for those drains is solid. There's battle plan for free. Again, there's no point in draining. The drain's -2 right now at the jungle, so I don't think that would allow Brad to retrieve. I'm pretty sure the rules don't work that way, but it would be kind of amusing if it did. There's Joe with the Obi with lightsaber, so he does flip ROPS back, which is what he wanted to do. And especially now, like, unless he consolidates those guys into the swamp, like if he instead just drops another guy with the Elam, Brad can't flip back. Okay, so he is going to consolidate him to the swamp, so Brad can flip himself back. And that's going to be, I think, his goal here. He's only got 4 cards in hand. He doesn't have a flip. He can pay 3 to drain for 1, which doesn't feel good either. I kind of expect we'll see, if nothing else, if he's not going to deploy anybody. Oh, he is going to pay 3 to drain for 1. All right. I expect we'll see Vader move over, Document Transit, Endicott and Mirjik. Walk Arnett and the ATST pilot one at a time, because you move one and then you'll flip, and then you can move the other and you give up that site. It's not ideal, but Brad can get himself back on the 7 side, which is what he wants. And Joe didn't pull some of the cards he needs. Like, he lost the Falcon off the top there, which is a little rough, and definitely leaves him a little light on options. And honestly, like, if Brad got something like a Zuckuss and Mist Hunter to throw at Kashyyyk, he might be real happy to just do that, and then, like I said, do that fancy move stuff I was talking about to get himself flipped and call it a day. You know, because you're back to being like, alright, I'm threatening a bunch of damage, and you've got to respond. Alright, so there's the move, there's the move. He's got to move Endicott and Mirjik. So there he gets the flip back to the 7, and here comes Arnett moving back. Tells me he didn't really have much in hand. That 4-card ant size was probably something like a barrier, you know, maybe some other things to be effective, but nothing he wanted to just singly throw down, and instead drawing for some cards was solid play. Yeah, you are correct here, Dylan. I just noticed that. Alright, let's see if I can figure out how to fix that. Yeah, dark side is Brad, light side is Joe. I'm not sure why the screen is like that right now, though. So that's going to be a... I mean, I do have it listed in the display as well. Also not sure why chat is not showing up. Chat box. Let's unhide chat. There we go. Yeah, something got moved here. Alright, so we see Joe drops Han on the Falcon at Kashyyyk, moves him to Raltier, gets the flip back. And he's going to draw a few. He draws up to 14. Either he says, I don't trust that Brad is playing Monarch, or he wants to risk it a little bit. And I apologize. I'm just trying to fix this display a little bit while I'm Alright, I am not sure what happened there. I'm just going to apologize and tell you that something is wrong, and this is where you hit the end of Garrett's ability to fix things, because I am not that techno savvy and I'm not sure what's going on with it. I'm not sure how it got changed, but I can either try and fix it or I can commentate on the game. Doing both is not going to happen. So we're going to get game commentary. Brad drains at the spaceport docking bay. For 1, we see an altar go away from hand. Drains at the jungle for 1. We see a lightsaber go from hand. Drops Tempest Scout 1, which Arnett's going to jump on. Drops Palpatine to the farm, which is, again, Joe didn't put the nudge there, and I think that was a mistake. Like, I think if he didn't have the second nudge, that's frankly a deck building error, and if he had the nudge, it should have been deployed long ago, because now he's giving up that drain of 2 to the Emperor basically from the get-go, and that's a problem. However, now Joe's got a 12-card hand, 14 force to work with. He's going to do something. It's just a question of what. We see again, activates 3, plays the signal. Another hell to pay. Grabbing the signal, that's a solid grab. I mean, in this era that trackable cycling 5 is obnoxious and a problem, and you don't want to give that up. So we'll stick with what it is. I apologize. I'm just looking to see if I can figure out any reason why that rim is done. So let's see what he grabs. So he grabs bargaining table, so he can start canceling drains with those elams in hand before he has to, and then being able to deploy them out of there. Yeah, we're just going to stick with, I don't know what's wrong with the display. And Joe is also going to pay to drain. I'm a little surprised, but right now Joe is ahead. Like, getting damage through is not a terrible thing. And also, he can sit at that swamp. The normal part of the swamp says to initiate battle, you have to pay +3 force. Battle plan says he initiates for free, so he doesn't need to pay that extra. There's a bargaining table. Wouldn't shock me if he just throws a co-pilot on the Falcon and moves them back to Kashyyyk, so he can start draining for 3 and threaten Kashyyyk, because, I mean, Brad can flip him back, but it's going to cost a bunch, and it'll take all his force to do it. Searches for a hydroponics or evaporator station with the farm, just gives up a verify to see what's in his deck. Not sure what he's looking for there. A nudge at this point is way too little, way too late. So let's see. And Brad trying to alter bargaining table right away, and there's a sense from hand to cancel the alter, so sense cancels alter. Both go to used because of oppressive enforcement. So bargaining table is going to stay right where it is, and Joe says, I'm just going to pick some up. You know, Joe's ahead on force right now. Brad's got 16 down and 8 in hand for 24. Or excuse me, Brad's got 24 total. Joe has 23 down and another 13 in hand. So he's definitely ahead on the life force count. And we see to drain a 3 at the forest. So now with Brad having to pay for those, I expect Joe's going to be waiting, if he's got an Elan, to cancel that drain of 2 with Palpatine, which might end up not occurring. Like, if I'm Brad, I might do a couple of the drains of 1 And if Joe doesn't cancel them, then I won't waste the 3 to make him cancel the drain of 2. I'll just move on from there. If he does cancel the drain of 1, then you do the, alright, fine, I'll pay and drain for 2, and now it can't be canceled via bargaining table. And we see the Elam go off the top. So Brad activated everything and just said, I'm just draining. Like, he needs to cause damage, he wants to track it down, and there we see Joe says, alright, fine, I'll cancel that drain of 1 because you've spent a lot of force now. And there's the drain of 2 going through. So, now the downside is Brad has only 2 force left. Like, he's got 8 cards in hand, but he's only got 2 force. And we see 2 zeros go off the top for Joe. So Joe's actually probably real happy to see those go away exactly where they went, as he's got a pile of saved force. I mean, he saved 6, and he's got 14 in there. Joe's gonna do something. And Brad's just drawing a couple. Like, he might have been looking for that altar, try and take a shot at canceling the bargaining table again, although you don't necessarily want to cancel it now because that Elam will deploy for free, and my guess is, especially if Joe's got anything else in hand, that Elam would go after Mirjik and Endicott and start creating problems. Joe activates, leaves 3 in his reserve. That sort of screams, here comes Luke with lightsaber, here comes an Elam, here comes guys at the docking bay dying. I'm not sure though. Like, there's a lot of things he could do there because he could have activated all of it. So leaving those 3 was a choice, which means he's intending to do something with those 3 force, or 3 in reserve deck, which generally is, especially in this era, I'm gonna swing a lightsaber at somebody. There's Luke Jedi Knight for 11 force and Luke's lightsaber, so he's not even bothering with the Elam. He just says, here's Luke. There's Goonie Tay. It's fine. Probably not super impactful this game. I mean, Vader's on table, Palpatine's on table. Who else are you going to throw out? Maybe Tarkin. Searching for the farm just to verify his reserve deck and kind of tell him who to swing at. I mean, they're both ability 2. Mirjik's 1 higher forfeit. He's a 6 instead of a 5, so I think you're probably swinging at Mirjik and then hoping to cause some overflow with that, because you're up 4 in power. If you've got decent destiny in there, like, you're at that point looking at potentially overflowing them, and they're unlikely to kill Luke. I mean, Luke's immune to less than 7. Luke's not going anywhere. So, and here's the react with Tempest Scout, and there's the sense to cancel the react, which is very good. Now, it does mean Luke's probably not swinging. There's a 1 for Destiny, so the react is canceled. Sense goes into used for Joe, but that does also mean Joe's now running lower on senses, you know. So, at this point, honestly, I think I still swing. I think I still swing, and I count on the fact that I'm already up 4 in power, that I can potentially knock him out, especially since he had a 0 in there, which would have been a terrible draw for Battle Destiny, but totally fine to draw the 0 and the 3 and slice up Commander Mirjik. And let's see what Brad draws for Battle Destiny, because Joe's not drawing one. Yeah, yep, Joe can't draw Battle Destiny, no cards in reserve deck. Here is, okay, so he draws a 4, which Luke is immune, and it means they tie. So Endicott doesn't have to die, but there's no reason to lose Luke. Like, you'll leave Luke right there. He is a big bad dude, and Luke being there stops you from flipping. You cannot control 3 sites right now, and that's good. Shiny versus not shiny. I'm not sure what you mean, but shiny is always the answer, 110% of the time. Shiny cards are amazing. And there's Joe moving the Falcon over to Kashyyyk, so he doesn't have to start paying for drains, and again, he can start threatening more damage. It also wouldn't shock me if he drew into something like an I Know, because you do have to worry a little bit about ROPS trying to come down on the Falcon with something like Zuckuss and Mist Hunter. And we see Brad activate all but 2 searches with Force Lightning for Emperor Palpatine. There's not one there, which isn't a surprise, but I think he just wanted to see what those 2 were. And activates 1 more, so he leaves himself 1. Oh. Yeah, I struggle to tell the difference between shiny and not shiny on Gemp a little bit. So Brad's going to drain for 1 at the Forest. And we see Kessel go from hand from Joe. Makes a lot of sense. No reason to put out Kessel right now, because she gives you a drain of 2. The difference between 2 and 3 is immaterial. There's Simalu down with Palpatine, so he adds a Battle Destiny there. And overseeing it personally, so I think we're probably going to see Sim move over to the Swamp, just so you can get that drain +1 from overseeing it personally. Well, it'll really matter on site you control. At each related site where an Imperial is present for a strain +1. So we see the Arrest Order, Search, which tells him what's in his reserve deck. There's nothing you want to see there right now. Like, you almost have to move Endicott away. You can't choke out Vader. I don't think you want to move Vader in front of Luke and take that risk. There's Sim moving over to in front of the Nudge. That makes total sense. Vader moving in front of Obi and the Elam. Okay. I mean, you've got a chance there where, depending on what Joe's got in hand, you can go for the... Hope he misses the swing. You've got the reacting ATST, so you can start... You can potentially look at overflow, but at the same time, Joe can drop another Elam or 2 and start making this real interesting real quick. And he is going to drain for 4, which is a not insignificant amount. Like, Brad's got 13 cards down and 9 in hand, so he's got 22 cards. Joe has 19 down after using the wind chimes and stacking it, and 7 in hand, although it'll be 8 in hand and 18, so he's still up a few cards, and that Elam is probably going to go do some damage. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all if he drops Elams on Endicott and says, you know what, I'll let you have the Swamp. Like, your Endicott's low. And you also have to worry about the... If you drop the Elams on Endicott and he reacts over with the Tempest Scout, Vader's potentially getting beat up. So there's the drain of 2, and he's just going to react over with the Scout right here. I don't love that play. Mostly because he cannot now react over with the Scout to either one of those battles. And frankly, that would have been much scarier. So we see the drain of 2 at Kashyyyk. And Brad's got to lose a couple for us. It wouldn't shock me if they come out of hand. There's Mara Jade from hand, which makes sense. She's probably doesn't have her lightsaber right now, and with Goo, she gets real expensive real quick. And there's Darth Vader with lightsaber, commonly called EPP Vader. That's a solid card to have in ROPS. Like, you're okay generally with your guys dying. You just want to trade real heavy, so you want to kill multiple guys when yours dies. And Vader with lightsaber does that real effectively. You know, you come down, you swing, you hit a guy, you draw Battle Destiny that's +3 or 4 or whatever, and you can probably trade Vader into 3 guys without a problem. There's the farm looking for the Vaporator. Shockingly enough, there is not a Vaporator or a hydroponic station. But Joe now knows what his reserve deck is, so he can decide what and how he wants to battle. Because again, that Scout can't react again. And that's... We know at the very least Joe can go Elam on top of Endicott and create a problem. Like, the attrition's -2 there, but he'd still be 8 power plus a Battle Destiny to 2 power and 5 forfeit. Like, you're already peeling 1 before that. Now, Brad did save a force. A barrier is very likely, But depending on what's in Joe's hand, he may have 2 Elams, which would mean barrier does nothing because you're still getting Endicott beat up. And there's an Elam. He could also have a sense for the barrier. So that first Elam, you let go. There's the second Elam off bargaining table. If you've got a barrier, here's where you've got to play it. Brad could also be sitting on a Gick, which would be fine and very reasonable. So no barrier. So like I said, Endicott. There's Tempest Scout 6 as a react. There's another sense, targeting Luke. I'm sure he doesn't have any 6s in the deck. There's probably a bunch of 5s. There's another 0 off the top. So he had a stack full of 0s, which is not ideal. But yeah, I hope he's got a Gick, because otherwise, Endicott. Oh, another 0. That is unfortunate. Joe had a little bit of live by the sword, die by the sword with Throne Remains. You stack a bunch of Twixes in your deck to make sure you have them, but if you miss and you're drawing them for Destiny, it feels real bad real quick. That being said, he does know what that end card is. He's letting the nudge attack Sim. Nothing's going to happen because the nudge cannot beat Sim, but he is drawing a Destiny, so he knew he didn't want to battle Vader with that. There was the other nudge, so he did have the nudge and he didn't deploy it. I do think that was a mistake, and I think that's going to cost him more than he would like. I think that's, that drain on the drains on Yavin are going to start to add up, and that's not ideal. Like in a differential game, those drains starting to add up is real bad. Joe says, I'm going to move an Elam over in front of Vader, just so if he gets choked, it's bad. I think he'll probably move the other one. Okay, so he moves them both in front of Vader. Says, I'm going to leave Luke alone here against the Walker. The Elams are at the same site as an Imperial, so the Imperial doesn't need to be present. He could have left the nudge there. Moves the nudge in front of Palpatine. Not sure why, unless overseeing is... Oh, well, at a battleground planet site you control. So he moves the nudge over, which means it's no longer a battleground. And he can't add 1 to the drain with Sim, which is solid. I mean, he's going to lose the nudge here in a second, but very smart play by Joe. He didn't deploy the nudge, which I do, and I'm going to say that was a mistake that's had far-reaching complications and is going to have far-reaching complications, but he's trying to make up for it, and Brad activates everything. He says, I'm not going to be able to do anything else there. Pays 3 to drain for 1 at the swamp. We see the bargaining table with the Elam. Don't love using the bargaining table there, because now the drain will go for 2 at the farm, and you don't get to Elam that. You don't get to use the bargaining table for that. So he loses an extra force that he doesn't need to lose. And again, this is match play format. The differential does matter. We see the Signal and Legendary Starfighter go from hand. Legendary would be a real interesting play. That's a real nasty card if you get that on the Falcon. Here's Blizzard Scout 1 at the swamp, and an ATST pilot piloting that. He's going to add 1 to the total attrition there, which is fine, but I'm not sure Joe really needs to battle there. Unless something changes, Joe's perfectly fine with that, and Brad did not leave a force, which means he can't attack the nudge, and he's losing the overseeing it personally bonus for another turn. That was a mistake as well. Honestly, I would have been fine not having that ATST pilot on Blizzard Scout 1 simply to kill that nudge. And also with leaving no force, he's not going to be able to react with Tempest Scout 1. So he's going to eat a drain of 3 this turn. The jungle is a drain -1, so he's only going to get drained for 1 there because of the lightsaber. and then drain 2 at Kashyyyk. Oh, Tempest got 1 reacts for free, excuse me. Alright, so he's going to lose. He doesn't give the drain a 1, but honestly, Joe's fine with that. Like, this is not a huge concern for Joe. He says, fine, you move your Tempest got 1. Like, we're just playing chicken with the chicken walker. See the drain of 2 at Kashyyyk here. Brad's going to peel 2, loses a Sarkly off reserve and a Dreadnought class heavy cruiser off reserve. So we did see a Boba Fett in Slave 1 lost early. We've not yet seen the Zuckuss and Mist Hunter, but I think it's too late to get much value out of it. See the search for the hydroponic station that's still not in there. I really think that was just a see if I can hit Vader. Like, if you're going to hit Vader, you're battling at the swamp for sure. If you're not going to hit Vader, you're not battling at the swamp, and that's a risk you're going to take. But order to engage is equally obnoxious, because the flip side is Brad doesn't want to battle into that stack. Like, you're just not missing that. And yeah, I missed that with Tempest got 1 reacting for free. Makes it a great card and part of what makes it good, real good in ROPS. But it was a 1 force thing, and it didn't change the action. Joe was certainly going to initiate that drain either way. What does he do with the Elam that's sitting on a bargaining table right now? Do we want to see him throw the Elam down somewhere? Or just let him sit? I think you maybe just let him sit. Like, there's no rush to put him out. I'm not actually sure Joe needs to rush much out on table. Like, he's ahead right now. I think you move Luke to the spaceport docking bay and probably just say go. Like, Brad can drain 3 times total, but it'll cost every drop of force he has, which is going to stop him from doing anything else. So he's probably going to drain at max 2 places. He'll drain at the farm, and he'll try and drain at the swamp, because he's going to have to battle away the nudge to try and add up some of that damage. Let's see where he goes. And Joe's still sitting in deploy. Joe is tanking a little bit here, which makes sense. Joe drops the Elam off bargaining table at the jungle. I only see a value in battling here if you know you're hitting Vader, and I don't think he does. I don't think he's going to battle. He's just nudging. The nudge battles Palpatine. That's an automatic action. So if you don't choose to make that happen, and there's a Leia with gun for a 1 destiny, so the nudge's ferocity is 1. He will not kill Palpatine with that. It's fine. And there's a 1. So there is more space. Brad does have Boskin Houndstooth there. Problem is now he knows where that 1 is, and that's not going to be enough to kill the Falcon with Han. Like, even if you drop Zuckuss and Mist Hunter there. And there's the trample that I kind of expected to see at some point. Like, trample, the 3 is going to kill an Elam, and that's fine. Like, I think Joe probably expected that, and now we know Brad's got, a 3 and a 4 down there as well. But again, none of that. Oh, the second trample. That was a little bit of a surprise. I did not expect 2 tramples. I wasn't surprised with 1. There's another 4, so again, his destiny is not enough to kill the Falcon right now if he drops Zuckuss and Mist Hunter on it. And he doesn't have a great way to go get those tramples back. He can't flip himself back to go searching for it. It is what it is. I think that might have just been cycle some cards out of my hand, kill some Elams, make this battle potentially a little more palatable, and Joe is moving everybody away then and says, fine, I'll give you, you want to pay to drain for 1, knock yourself out. I'm draining for free, you're not. It does give up the order to engage damage, but I think it was the right play for Joe. I actually think Brad probably should have waited until draw phase to drop those tramples, to force Joe to be stuck there and run the risk of getting his guys killed. Because if he uses those tramples, gets the battle through, he can potentially wipe the board and be happy with it. So there's the Zuckuss and Mist Hunter. Zuckuss is down 2 power to Han. Like, that's... And so you draw the 4 here. So he left 2, so actually I think that it's the 3. I think that's the projective telepathy he drew to trample the one Elam. So you're going to be down 1 power. Like, if Joe's got anybody in deck, and looks like there's no I know, which is good for Brad. Like, an I know would have been game ender here. I know to drop Leia with gun for free in there would have just been absolutely brutal. Instead punch it to make the Falcon immune. I don't love that play. Your total battle destiny is still going to be 0. I don't think he's drawing the 3, so you were immune. You lost a force to do nothing because you're still going to be down. You knew what that destiny was. There's the I know he would have loved to have in hand here, but he does have 7 cards in hand. Like, he's got to have something. And now he knows he's got a 5 at the bottom, which is also very good. Like, having that knowledge is good. And he loses a Twix from hand because he doesn't need the force. It does... And Brad goes to move. So Brad, again, chooses not to kill that nudge. And... Ooh, I'm... not sure. Well, Vader's fully immune, so you'd have to hit him. I mean, you could activate down to 2, Oh, 2 would be a 1 and 5, so I guess you can't... You don't have a guaranteed hit on Vader. And that's not ideal. Let's see what Joe's doing here. That turn went very well for Brad, comparatively. Joe leaves 4, so we know he's got a 5 at the bottom. I expect we'll see a drain of 2 at the docking bay, and Brad will, again, react over with Tempest got 1 just to make the action, make the move. Clocks are going. Brad's got 36 minutes. Joe's got 24. I don't think time's going to be an issue here. I think they're going to be done well within time. There's the drain of 1. There's the react over with the walker. All this is, and a sense on the react. All right. Got it. So that does stop the sense over. That does mean Brad's going to lose the 2 there, which is not what he was hoping for. Those senses have hit him pretty hard. There he loses a 1 and a 0 off the top. So he's probably okay with those going away, especially because I gotta imagine Joe's going to drop another pilot on the Falcon here. Like, he's got 9 force. He didn't have the I know, but if he's got Leia in hand, because we saw 1 off reserve deck, Leia in hand will draw 3 battle destinies. And that'll end his day real quick. Joe's moved into deploy because he didn't have anything else he was going to drain or anything here. And he's got a 3-1-5 in reserve, which means he doesn't hit Vader, and Vader is fully immune at the forest, so I'm not even sure I want to battle there. Like, I'd rather them sit there and make Brad start that battle and eat the order to engage, and run with that. So Joe moves into battle. He does not have the... Alright, Joe disagrees with me. He says, I'm going to battle. I'm going to swing at Vader. Unless I miss something, this is a miss. Should be a 3 and a 1. Yep. And then... I mean, the 5 for Battle Destiny, Vader's immune, but Vader is down a bunch. Like, you're potentially costing him Vader, although he's going to be down a lot less now. Because that Elam is choked away. what was under that projective. I think it was a... that might be that trample, which would effectively mean he's really only down a couple force here. Trying to remember what the destiny were. It's either the trample or it's a 1. We'll find out. So there's the 5 for Battle Destiny that we knew was getting drawn. Oh, it's a 2. Alright, so the Elam's going to die in cover. And he is down 6 force, which has to be Vader at this point. So Joe's going to lose an Elam and be okay with it. I mean, at this point, you have to lose Vader. The problem with that for Joe is Obi's got no immunity. Like, Obi's just plain going to die real easily. Yeah, I wasn't not even sure what Joe was thinking about there. You can't lose Obi and just leave alone Elam. So that went fine. Like, it's not ideal though. And there's the nudge starting its attack. He's going to fail, whatever. Nudge does nudge things. This is really just kills a little bit of clock. Brad is down to 8 cards down and 4 in hand. So, like, he's down to 12 cards total, where Joe's got 14 down and then another 5 in hand. Joe moves Obi-Wan over to the swamp to block the drain of 1. I don't like any of that. Brad wasn't going to drain there. And you're just going to lose Obi-Wan and not get anything out of it. I don't like that at all. Because Brad will 100% battle there. Even if he has to, like, if he loses everyone and makes you lose Obi-Wan, he's still okay with that. So, I'm not a fan of that play. Is he going to move the Falcon and start paying for drains, and more importantly, he'll give up a drain of 2, but it's also, makes those other drains free. Which I guess, yeah, he wasn't paying for the drain there. So, moving Obi to stop the drain of 1. Okay. I mean, your best case scenario there is Brad doesn't have anything else in hand, and you just clear the site by drawing a 4 or higher, which is not ideal. I don't... Like I said, I'm going to stick with I don't love that move. I don't know that he necessarily had great other options, but it is what it is. He might be deciding if he wants to move Luke in front of Tempest Scout 1. The downside of that is you've got Arnett, who adds 1 to attrition, and the ATST pilot, who adds 1 to attrition. So at that point, Brad just needs to draw a 5, and he will kill Luke. And 5's a heck of a lot easier than 6 or 7. Like, 5 might be in this stack, although I didn't see any right now. Like, if he's got a 5, I don't think he knows where it is either. And that may be the math Joe's kind of doing is, am I going to be able to move Luke over, block that drain, and make things happen. So I do think this turn we're going to see Palpatine battle the nudge either way, just to turn that back into a battleground, get that extra drain with overseeing it going. Joe's in the tank a little bit, though. Like, Joe is definitely thinking hard about the Luke move. If he moves the Falcon, what does he want to do for paying things? So he moves the Falcon away, which I think makes sense. If you don't have the I know, leaving the Falcon there is not a great plan. And now he's going to pick some up. This drain is gonna sting. Like, Brad is playing this actually very well in terms of keeping this, minimizing differential if he loses, and frankly, he's still in a position where he could win. Like, this is not a gimme right now for Joe, which I was thinking Joe was in a real good position a couple turns ago, but he didn't have some of the answers he needed. He really needed that I know or a Leia in space to go after Zuckuss. There's a Bothan spy on the bargaining table that just gives him the... I mean, he's a spy. He's a high destiny, which works well for the... Never tell me the odds. There's a drain of 1 at the swamp. There goes another Luke from hand. Joe I think might have been deciding if I move him over, can I deploy Luke again? And frankly, I don't think you can. Like, you just don't have the money for that. There's a drain of 2. We see an altar off the top, and I assume we'll see something else here. Oh, another Luke from hand, and then the altar. There's Tempest Scout 6. There's Search and Destroy. So, yep, he's going to kill Obi, and then get Search and Destroy up and running because he's got Simalu at the swamp, and he's going to have the dudes at the other swamp. Here's Palpatine killing the Nudge, which is valuable. He leaves only 1 destiny for his battle against Obi. That's doesn't really matter because Obi's got no immunity. Like, this is Brad's clawing this end game out very, very well. This is not an easy spot to be in. And there's the battle at the swamp. Like I said, from Joe's perspective, it doesn't really matter what happens. He's not taking overflow. His best case scenario here is draw high enough. I mean, he just doesn't do great. Like, he draws the 5, which is good because it costs him the ATST pilot and a walker. But the damage is kind of done in that regard. Like, he's going to lose Obi, which means Search and Destroy starts to hit. And that's not good. And he loses the Tempest Scout 6, which makes a little bit of sense because you can always decide to move Tempest Scout 1 over, drop the ATST pilot, put it on Blizzard Scout 1, and move that to another site as well, and split up. Alright, so instead he just jumps the ATST pilot off, and here's the effective repairs to get an effect of any kind into hand. I gotta imagine that's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, it's gotta be. I gotta think it's going to be Never Tell Me the Odds. But, like, oh, legendary. Okay, so he's gonna. Says he's going to move back in front of Zuckuss and threaten that. There's the ATST pilot moving over to pilot Blizzard Scout 1, so now they're both drawing Battle Destiny. However, that does mean our net is very battleable. Because again, you're adding 1 to attrition instead of 2, so a 5 no longer kills Luke. And I gotta expect Joe's probably going to pay, like, at this point you pay 3 to drain for 2. You need to get all the damage you can through here. So here's the Search and Destroy ping. I think it'll probably be a card from hand. Joe's only got 10 cards down, and it's expensive to deploy anything to route here. So, although Brad has 3 cards down, or 3 cards in hand and 7 cards down. Like, I could absolutely see a, you know, activate everything, pay 3 to drain for 2, you know, maybe leave 1 force because if he reacts over with Tempest Scout 1, you want to be able to go after it. Pay 3 to drain for 2, drop the Both and Spy to the Executor docking bay just to give you another drain. And threaten the I Know, because I think he should be able to draw into it here. And drop the I Know on Luke, or excuse me, on the Falcon. Joe's tanking about what to lose. Like, this is actually a very hard spot because he's not necessarily winning this game. He loses the Legendary Starfighter he just went and got. Okay, I guess. I mean, you could have just lost the effective repairs then. So, that is what it is, although he's definitely in a tight spot here. So Brad's gonna, like, yeah, he's not in a great spot. He's not happy with where he's at, but this is match play. Brad's best case scenario at this point is winning by 7, which is not ideal. You know, it's not a lot, and that's enough to keep him alive. So we see Joe activates everything. I mean, he's got to pay to drain here. I think Brad's got to react over to cancel it. And then I think you pay to drain one more, and then I think you're putting the Bothan Spy down somewhere to shut off Search and Destroy. And I don't like any of those options. Like, I really don't like any of those options. I think I would have left one in reserve if I'm going to drain, simply to threaten the sense or the battle, and go with that. Although Tempest Scout 1 is immune to less than 4 while in Arts Piloting, so like, you have to know what your destiny is too. And I'm not sure he did, because he used the 3 with effective repairs, so I think Joe's probably trying real hard to track down something. There's Obi with Saber in front of Simalu. That'll block that drain of 2. It'll shut off Search and Destroy for a turn, which is all good. I almost think you got to move Luke in front of Arnett. Like, you kind of got to find your I know if you're going to move the Falcon back, which is really going to be the hard one. There's Luke moving in front of Arnett. You got to stop that drain. And the Falcon moves to Kashyyyk, so Joe's drawing a couple. He's drawing in for his I know and or Leia combo. Like, that's, you've got to get that running. He draws all of it. You know, Search and Destroy does shut down, so he's taking a drain of 3 this turn, and it might be as little as actually 1, because he does still have bargaining table. Brad activates a couple, drains for 1 at the swamp, and that drain goes through. Joe's going to lose a force, and Brad's in the same point at this, you know, the end of here, which is, we see the EPP Obi lost the drain. Joe's only going to win by like 7 at most. So both of them are fairly happy with how this ended up playing out. It's going to end up being dependent on the next game. Like, this is going to be very close in differential. And Brad searches for a card that's not there, gets the verify out, which isn't a big deal. It really just tells him what those 3 are. And it doesn't necessarily matter, because Sim's he's got to attack with Sim, and then I don't think he can attack with Arnett. Alright, so if he attacks with Arnett, no, I don't think he attacks with Sim. Unless he knows he's not going to lose Arnett. There's a 4 for Battle Destiny, which makes his attrition 5, but Luke is immune to that. The thing is, Luke draws a 3 there, the attrition is 1, so the Walker is immune, but he is down a force. And we see him lose Tempest Scout 3 from hand, and that's it, but it's a force. So now I expect we'll see the battle with Sim. Nope, so we see the battle in space first, and he is up a power right now, or he's down 2 power right now. There's a 4 for Battle Destiny, so he is up 2 power. And Joe, I mean, Joe's just got to lose a couple. I'm not sure why he moved back there, unless he had, you know, maybe he drew, and there's a Leia from reserve, so maybe he just couldn't draw into what he needed. There's Order to Engage hitting. Brad chose not to battle with Sim and not to get Search and Destroy back online. I don't love that play. I think I would have battled. I would have put Search and Destroy back online and not lost the 3 to Order to Engage. That being said, it's 6 force to 8 force total right now. They are both very, very close on force. And really just depends on what's in Joe's hand. Like, if Joe's got the Leia in hand, if he's got another Leia in hand, he can just activate 4, drop her battle, activate 4, drain for 1, then drop her battle and do some things. Because basically anything will kill Zuckuss, and that's a great position for him. If he doesn't have that, I mean, I could almost see activating, dropping the Bothan Spies at each of the 2 docking bays, and moving Obi over to block either the Sim Drain or the Palpatine Drain. With the, hey, I know I'm going to lose this guy, but it is what it is. And try and force Brad, because Brad just doesn't have a lot of cards left. Like, Brad's got 4 force and 2 in hand. There's not much he can do. And he'll have 1 less card after that drain at the swamp with Obi. So, and I think Joe's probably thinking that through as well. Like, Joe's kind of in the tank. Brad has played this very, very well, from starting off in a bad position and getting caught, and eating 8 from the Never Tell Me the Odds. So we see he activates 4 and leaves 2. That screams, I have a Leia and I'm going to kill Zuckuss. Like, there's no other play that makes sense. And Brad loses the barrier he's been sitting on. He never had the Force for it. He's basically never had the Force 2 barrier. So that's makes sense. And there's the Leia. He does battle for free with Battle Plan. So he's probably not overflowing Zuckuss. I mean, he's up 3 in power, and he's up getting 2 Battle Destiny, 2 Brad's 1, but Zuckuss forfeits for 5. And I think he's drawing 3/3 here. There's the Sense and the Sense. Yep, so he's at 13-4, which means Brad is down by 9. Zuckuss forfeits for 5, so a 4 or higher. So 4 means he doesn't take any overflow, but he does lose Zuckuss, and that's bad. Like, now Brad has to pay for drains, and he can only pay for 1. And that also means there would no reason to move Obi-Wan anywhere, because if you move Obi-Wan, it shuts down Search and Destroy again, unless you move him in front of Palpatine, and it really doesn't help. So you've got Palpatine there. Yep, Brad activates everything. He pays 3 to drain for 2. And Joe has no cards in hand, so he's going to peel 2 off reserve, loses a Sense and a Sense. And Brad's either battling Luke and losing some, or losing 3 to not battle Luke. And yep, so he's going to battle Luke. He can't draw Battle Destiny, so he's going to lose there, and I think he's probably just going to peel. Yep, there's a 3, so it's 11-6, so he's down 5. I would expect he just peels here, as it leaves him a couple less cards in Lost than he would have had otherwise. Yep, so Joe with the win by 5, and Lost Pile is 35-37. So super close game. Let's get that in here right away, as I expect they're going to start game 2 pretty quickly. Game 1 results. So that is in. Yep, looks like they're going to take a 5-minute break, and I don't blame them at all. Let's get the light side player changed here. So Brad will be light side next game against Joe's dark side, and Joe does have the advantage right now, as he did win game 1, so he's got the 5 differential advantage. Oh, we see a Champions League game going right away, and there's the other Retro Online Championship Series that's going to start here in just a moment between Paul Todd Fellman and Tony Peterson, I believe. Tony the Swede. So then we see the Champions League for open play, which is Matthew Harrison Trainer on ISB versus Kenobi SW, which I believe is Brad Iyer on WAP. And it looks like Matt is comfortably in the lead there. I'm not going to jump to it because I don't want to miss the start of the Retro OCS game that I'm actually doing. Looks like the Dr. Torch versus Tony game got started, which means the multi-stream is going if you want to watch and listen to both myself and Eddie, as we've got Eddie Swabowski, and I don't know if he's got a co-host or not on there. But we'll have this game starting here in a second. Well, we've got a second. I just thank you. It looks like we got some viewers on here. Thank you guys for watching. I know I kind of, hype this every time, but if you have Prime, you can subscribe to the PC Twitch channel with Prime. Puts a little bit of money into the PC, which allows this kind of stuff to be run. It allows GEMP to happen. It allows the prizes for these events. It allows all this stuff to go on. We will also be seeing soon enough the charitable things. The Players Committee is a 501c3 corporation. That means we are a charitable corporation. If you have an employer match for donations, you can certainly utilize that to help the Players Committee. And again, it doesn't take a lot if you're already going to donate something. If you hit that match, you can get a little more money going to the PC, which again just helps run all this stuff. Like, this is a volunteer organization. We are run and survive off of our players, and it is keeping things going. As far as what's going on right now, there's a lot of open games going on right now. The Champions League is going on, and we see those are the different pods being played in. There's a lot of a new tweak set will be coming out sometime soon. Spoilers are starting to drop online, which is definitely going to impact the open meta significantly. We got a big event coming up in about a month in Las Vegas, which is going to have a retro tournament. The Vegas Vegas event will have a retro event on Sunday. I believe the plan is premiere to Death Star 2, although I'm not sure it is set. So, we saw this once, guys. We got, a little bit different. So, Joe going with ROPS with the prepared defenses start. Brad with Yavin 4 War Room with the heading for the Med Frigate start. So he's going to get insurrection staging areas and battle plan. So he's going to have a little more activation going. He's not going to be as subject to the, oops, I drew Twixes when I didn't want to draw Twixes. But at the expense of starting a little bit slower. And we see Joe with Arrest Order, Mobilization Points, and Decree. Gets the Mobilization Points pull. He grabs Executor. So, while we see the similar starts, very different decks played by each player, which I do enjoy. That's one of those things that's going to happen. We see Brad with the Home One War Room from hand. So we got one Twix instead of two. That's a little bit rough. Gets the Home One Docking Bay. Now, if he's got a 2-cost guy, and there's the Anger for Your Aggression. So, yep, both players playing inserts, making baby Jesus cry. I don't know why you guys are doing these things to me. I joke. I played inserts in this era too, and will continue to play them. And Brad just draws a couple and says, all right. Joe activates his 2. Uses Arrest Order. I'm betting we'll see the Executor Docking Bay. Oh, Death Star 2 Docking Bay. See, so many different cards. Death Star 2 Docking Bay and Executor Docking Bay are functionally identical in this deck. The Death Star 2 Docking Bay is a little harder to do anything to because it's the 8 to move the 2 or from there. There's Kurita, so that's why he grabbed Executors. He had Kurita in hand. Definitely a different deck. I did not don't usually see Executor in ROPS. And grabs the jungle, throws the Biker Scout Trooper to the Death Star docking bay, uses the Biker Scout Trooper to get a speeder bike. All right, let's see where this goes. I'm officially in the what in the blue heck are you doing stage of game. Biker Scout Trooper obviously gets on the speeder bike in the Death Star 2 docking bay. I remember that scene from the movies like it was yesterday. And Joe doesn't have anything to draw, so Brad gets to go. Brad activates his 7. He's going to search for another docking bay. I bet we'll see the Hoth docking bay here. There it is, the Hoth docking bay. I do expect we'll probably see either the Cloud City docking bay or the Tatooine docking bay, depending on what kind of deck Brad is running. If we see Cloud City, I expect we'll see Off the Edges. If we see Tatooine, he's probably running Ben Kenobi instead of Obi with lightsabers, and using that as his battleground to keep guys alive. He does just throw First Officer Thenespi at the Home 1 docking bay to take advantage of the staging area's activation and go, which is the same reason Joe threw the Biker Scout Trooper at the Death Star 2 docking bay. Like, it was unlikely Brad was going to be able to make him pay for that. And it's a smart enough play. So Joe throws down, he's getting a sight with Realty Operations. My guess is he's probably hoping to flip here. Like, he's got 8 force to work with. He can put a couple of guys down, move the Biker Scout Trooper, and then consolidate them probably at the forest, or maybe the jungle. Yep, there's a Biker Scout Trooper. There's a Biker Scout Trooper. Biker Scout Trooper's going to grab a bike. Because, why the heck not? Biker Scout Trooper's going to grab a bike. Because, why the heck not? I mean, they all now are drawing Battle Destiny on their own, I believe. Nope, they are not. It's just Power 4, no Battle Destiny. So, and they each forfeit for 5 though, which is solid. And you can lose the speeder bike and keep them alive. The speeder bike text says they can jump off. And we see Joe says, "All right, I'm gonna flip, get all my speeder bikes," because he can also react now. The speeder bikes around and threaten a bunch of power. Because Brad's activating 12, but all these guys are expensive. Like, anyone to Raltier is a +2. And here's another Insurrection pull. Does not give up a verify. So there's the Tatooine docking bay, which tells me we're likely going to see a Ben Kenobi come down. There's launching the assault for the Home 1 to go get Home 1, which was also part of the search for the docking bay. And, I mean, he does have enough to just go throw down Home 1 and throw the Nesby on board there, but that might be, okay, so he's dropping tunnel vision as well. I mean, he's still got enough to throw the Nesby down, and especially if he's got, like, Akbar either in his hand or in his force pile who he can throw at the war room and suddenly have a pretty loaded Home 1. There's another Twix from hand, so he's going to bump up his activation. There's order to engage. Alright, we're going to see him put someone down with the Biker Scout. Like, there's Lieutenant Blount at a docking bay. And your insight serves you well. Brad's just dumping a bunch of cards from hand right now. I'm not sure. The Blount makes sense. Like, you want to pump up that activation. The insight is fine. I don't think it's going to be super impactful here. Frankly, Battle Plan's going to be way more impactful. Like, Joe probably isn't going to pay to drain right now. Like, I don't see a ton of benefit to that. So he's going to activate. Yep, first things first. He'll use 2 to go get any card from his reserve deck. Brad's left 3, which could be that he's bluffing a barrier or something like that. It could also be that he drew to 12 and doesn't want to get monarched and lose a bunch of cards, especially since he went and grabbed Home 1. So it is very possible, like Joe could be going for a spy and go for a beatdown here on either Blount or Thinesby. Honestly, I would go for Thinesby simply because he's going to be a lot nastier on the home one. I don't expect to see him pay to drain. Like, that would fall into the why would you do this kind of thing. Like, we'll probably see like a Mara Jade if he's got her, and he's also got to consider that Brad's probably sitting on a Fallen Portal. Like, with this Docking Bay activation platform, you're absolutely running some Fallen Portals. There's a prefix office from hand. He could just, I mean, if he drops a leader there, if you're Imperial leader here, all your Imperials at same and related site are better. We're going to see another speeder bike come down. Alright, maybe he didn't have a spy in there to go after Thinesby, because that would have been my... And there's Corporal Misk. What the heck does Misk do? 3 power speeder bike, and one with Barrich, and a battle, and piloting or driving a vehicle. Alright, so he does nothing. Like, right now, he's just got a bunch of Imperials spread across Reltier, threatening things, and he drops security precautions to bump his activation, but he's not getting a lot out of it yet. Like, he's still just kind of setting up, waiting for Brad to do something, but Brad's got a full 12-card hand and a whole pile of force, and there's the signal from Brad. And it's possible Joe doesn't have Mara in deck, or Mara might be his only spy, and he activated her. He grabs Beggar. So that would be one other reason you run Tatooine, is to go Beggar, potentially plus draw their fire, although you don't even necessarily need that. You're just running Beggar to stop all the reacts. Misk is not a leader, so he doesn't get the plus bonus from the prefix office. I expect we'll see Beggar come down, and then Brad's going to have to do something interesting. So here's another tunnel vision. So you see, this is a very different throne room mains than what Joe played. That's one of kind of the allures to throne room mains, especially in this meta, is you could do a lot of things with it. You could run mains, you could run elams and numbers, you can run, you know, things like tunnel vision and just take advantage of the I've got more force than you. I'm going to activate a bunch. I'm going to go get the single card that I want that makes my hand run. There's Beggar. He's going to use Beggar and use a force to drop Akbar to the home one war room, which means the home one now drops cheaper. And I expect we'll see Akbar and Thinesby move up there. Yep, so he adds 3 to power capital. Your capitals play -1. Just once per game, you take a Mon-Cal character or Admiral's Order into hand. So he must have probably Major Hashin. So, and I expect Hashin will deploy on home 1, and we'll see Thinesby and Akbar move up. I mean, usually immune to less than 10 is really big. In this case, where Joe's already adding 4 to his draw, that's not nearly as big. Like, if he's got, you know, Bossk and the Houndstooth plus Zuckuss and Mist Hunter and drawing 2 Destiny, like, that'll take him out in all likelihood. Like, that +4 will add up, but Hashin forfeits for 5. And we see Blount move over to the home 1 docking bay. I wonder if he might keep them there for a turn. Because there's no reason to move Blount unless you're going to keep him with Thinesby. Alright, apparently not. He just wanted to move Blount over to home 1. So I don't think Blount can move up after the docking bay transit. And instead he moves Hashin down. So yeah, he realized he can't move Blount up. And you don't want to risk... You were trying to protect the Blount beatdown. And there's the out of commission. Somewhere Scotland Grell is smiling. As he places a random card out of play, it doesn't really matter what it is, it's just a random card. It was a prepared defenses, but that's really much more of a cycle at 5. So Joe activates. He reveals the anger, fear, aggression, which means he needs to start a battle this turn. I'm not entirely sure he wants to, but he's got a chance. So he activates. The problem is his space right now is Executor, who costs a ton to deploy, and then you need other guys with it, and he doesn't have all that stuff going. So he's going to go grab a card with Raltier, or within the hands of the Empire, ROPS. It's got to be something, like he's got to go after somebody. I think you're trying to find a spy here. I think you want to take down Hashin and Blount and maybe create some overflow from that, along with not burning to anger, fear, aggression, and at least make Brad pay for it. And actually, Brad can't even drain. Like, well, I guess he can drain for one. It's -1 from Krita, it's -1 from ROPS, but then it is +1 from the launching the assault. So you can make Brad pay 3 to drain for 1. I cannot fathom Joe draining here. And I say that, which means, of course, he's going to drain here because why wouldn't he? He grabs his card, shuffles his reserve deck. He's got 12 force to work with. You gotta do something here. There's the Mara Jade, the Emperor's Hand, to the home 1 docking bay. There's the barrier, which you're not super sad about. Like, you go, okay, you barriered her, but now I have presence, so I can drop any 2 dudes and still be okay. And we see Mara go get her lightsaber, which is good and will make a difference later. You definitely need to drop some guys there, though, in battle. Otherwise, you're just burning to order to engage, and then he moves away. Yeah, I don't like that play. I mean, it's fine. It's Boba and Slave One. Excuse me. And now he's going to eat 7 between order to engage and anger, fear, aggression. And that's all sorts of yuck. Like, moving Fett and Slave 1 up to ROPS to Raltier does nothing. It's not a battleground. It's not adding to anything because you don't have a Imperial there. Like, I guess you can add a passenger and turn that into a +5, but, like, it's not a great whatever you're doing. You potentially stop Brad from flipping you back just by dropping on your Biker Scout and moving home 1 over, I guess, which is not nothing, but I'm still going to stick with I don't love that play. We see another anger, fear, aggression inserted. We see Gunite come down, which, you know, we saw Vader's lightsaber peeled to the force loss. Those actually went fairly quick. We see a barrier, Vader's lightsaber, search, ability, Scout Trooper, and Zuckuss and Mist Hunter. So the Vader's lightsaber going away is big. And there we see Blount moving up and Hashin moving up, which was going to happen. And Brad just draws some. He says, fine. You want to pay to drain me? Knock yourself out. Here's the out of commission and gets a Biker Scout Trooper, also known as Don't Care. But it's more Brad's drawing. So Brad now, he's up. He's looking for something. He's drawn up to 16 cards. So he's definitely looking for something. And he might also be saying, I don't think Joe's running a Monarch. So Joe activates 12 of his possible 15. There's the anger, fear, aggression popping again. So he's got to start a battle, and there's nowhere good to start one. There's nothing with nobody. Like, I'm that's not a good spot for Joe. So he's got his force active. I mean, maybe you drain for 2 at the home 1 docking bay, but that'd be about it for doing anything big or meaningful. And I'm just not sure what he's going to be shooting for here. And I'm not sure he knows what he wants to do here either. Like, this has been a strong... very strong start for Brad. Like, Brad is definitely in control right now, even though it doesn't necessarily look like it. Like, they're about even on force. Brad's got a few more force because they're about even in what's down, but Brad's got 8 more cards in hand. Joe is certainly threatening a lot more damage. Like, he's got a lot more cards. You know, he could theoretically pay and drain for like 6 here, but then he's not doing anything else. And he's going to peel another 4 to the Anger, Fear, Aggression, which is bad. And I think that might be some of what he's trying to figure out. So he throws Executor to Raltier as well. And we see Brad uses the signal to go get some sort of effect. I would bet it's going to be another Anger, Fear, Aggression. Oh, grabs a grabber. What are you trying to push on us? Which he will play for free because of Wise Advice, so... Joe's in a rough spot. Like, I don't think you want to just put the Falcon on the... or put Boba on the Executor. You can't move it over right now. Like, you spent all your force to do that, and now you're going to peel 4. So we see Eye Roll, Gick, There Is No Try, and Lord Vader all go from used pile. Like, Brad is ahead right now, and Joe needs to figure out how to turn that math. So it honestly wouldn't shock me at all to see Brad do something like he drained for 1 at Kurita, and I could absolutely see a drop a couple guys at the Tatooine docking base. You're no longer paying to drain. You know, maybe like Ben with his lightsaber, so you get an extra drain going and just keep things going. We see Joe lose his secret plans off the top. So Joe did win the first game, but it was only by 5. And there's Luke with lightsaber, or excuse me, Luke Jedi Knight, 2 home 1 with his lightsaber. And there's Han with guns, so this might be, especially with, we saw the Gick go off the top, Brad might be trying to end it right here. Mara is power 4. Oh, he doesn't even bother battling. Okay, he was going to get, Mara was going to be power 8 to his power 12. He's potentially losing Luke. So he did end up with, here's a guy with a lightsaber at Tatooine. So now, I don't know what Joe does here. Like, I don't... Joe's got to answer home 1 somehow. You know, he's got to get... Yeah, the Destiny's +4. Like, that's what I'm saying, is you probably lose Luke if you start that battle, but you're drawing 2. If you hit her, you're up a chunk of power. Like, you might be wiping and just trading that site, but you're potentially creating a decent chunk of overflow. There's the Emperor's shuttle. I expect we'll see an Emperor on there. Alright, so now Joe says, I'm going to start drawing multiple Battle Destiny. I'm going to make you work for this. Because he can easily just move everyone over, dump everyone in the Executor, and honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing another... Like, I wouldn't mind at all seeing another Biker Scout sitting on Fett and Slave 1, and leave Fett and Slave 1 there, just to make it a +5 to total Destiny. And you're drawing 2, you've got a bunch of immunity there, Sposk and the Houndstooth as well. So he's deploying everybody to Raltier because even if he's just going to move over, he doesn't want to deploy into the order to engage. Alright, so he's going to... Yep, he piles Fett and Slave 1 and the shuttle onto the Executor. Moves the Executor over. Those ships will now jump off. Oh, moves Bosk and Houndstooth over first, and then the ships will jump off. So now he's threatening 3 Battle Destiny at a total of +4. Like, that's That's a scary system. And Brad's got to do a little something about it, because it also is now a battleground, so Joe can start draining. Like, this is not a great spot for Brad, but Brad's got 16 cards in hand. When he's only got 16 force, he's only got 16 cards down, so he's going to have to be able to come after the speeder bikes, but, like, what's he coming after him with? Basically, Horbey with lightsabers is about his only option right now. I don't think he's got much else that he can really come down with. So, and he has to worry about something like a high-speed tactics just messing up his day. So let's see where Brad goes here. I mean, he'll activate, he'll drain for 1. So it's -1 from Raltier and then +1 from the lightsaber. So he's going to activate 3 first, which tells me he's probably, he's not going to get the signal after he activates 3. We see the used Monarch. There's the push on us. So Brad says, I don't need you to keep monarching me. This way I can start drawing up real hard. But that does potentially mess with a lot of Brad's plans. Like, if he was drawing for a specific card and he now lost it, this could make things real interesting real quick. Because he's not in a great position. Like, you almost have to move home 1 away. And you move it to Raltier, you're not doing anything. So you've got to be able to try and take Joe off of a site and still control it. So when you move the Falcon, when you move home 1 over, you flip it. And none of that's ideal. Like, none of that is what he really wants to do. Especially because he's kind of locked up all his space. So Brad activates all of it, so he's not battling this turn. So he initiates a force drain of 0, adds 1 to it with the saber. Yep. So, I mean, Joe is running out of cards, though. Joe's got 17 cards total after that drain, as he loses a Biker Scout Trooper from hand. So he's at 13 down and 4 in hand, compared to Brad's 23 down and 8 in hand. So Brad's up a comfortable margin in cards, but so he drops the Horbey at the prefix office, but without being able to swing or draw Battle Destiny, I don't think you're doing anything else there. You're certainly not starting a battle where your best case scenario is you outpower him by 1. And yep, there's the 1 force to move the home 1 over to Raltier, and basically his plan is to move Luke and Han there, and he's going to go for the flip back. He's going to try and get control of two locations, and he's already got 1. So he'll get Raltier. He's got Raltier right here. So he's just got to get 1 more somewhere. And Joe's got to figure out how he wants to kill what he needs to kill. That being said, if he's got anybody who starts drawing Battle Destiny, this is going to get interesting quick. And Joe only activates 6, so he is planning on a bunch of stuff potentially. Although now he's just going to use Palpatine and see what else is in there. So we may see a few more activated now, just because he needed to see what he wanted to draw into, what he wanted to activate to here. And apparently my dog is not happy about something that's going on upstairs. And I'm not sure what he's complaining about, but might be he doesn't like the way this game is going for Joe. I didn't know he was particularly a Joe fan, but maybe that is what it is. Oh, sounds like I got a visitor coming in. My kid left him in, so Joe activates a few more, leaves himself 2 in reserve. I mean, he's going to punch a bunch of drains through here. So there's the drain of 2 at the docking bay. There's Brad loses a sight from hand and onto the Jedi from hand. And then we'll see 3 more drains of 1. Like, he's starting to run drains. And the problem is that Order to Engage is going to sting. He's got to battle at every site or peel. And can't really afford to do a lot of peeling. And we see a Revolution from hand, we see a Grimtash from hand, and we see one more drain at the forest. There goes a Luke Jedi Knight from hand. Like, if Joe can keep that amount of damage up for a few turns, this is going to get real close real quick. But he's definitely still behind. Like, he still has less total cards than Brad just has cards down. And Brad still has a 7-card hand. Yeah, I don't love what he's... Like, he may end up eating that order to engage no matter what. Like, and that's not going to be good for him. I'm not sure what his plan is to not get stuck by that. I mean, if you're going to try and do it, you have to battle first against Obi and then probably lose the speeder bike to make him lose Obi to keep him from having that second sight controlled. And then you battle against Luke and Han, but like, that battle against Luke and Han is going to be bad. And you're still going to end up giving up control of the location, which is also bad. So, all that being said, let's see where Joe goes with this. He did just do a verify to see what he's got, so he knows what his 2 Destiny are, and so does Brad. And there's 6 for a Janus on the Emperor's personal shuttle. I don't really love any of that. Like, I mean, he's not a leader, so it wouldn't have helped to put him on Raltier, but like, he didn't get the cheap deploy, and I feel like the cycle is not really what you want to have occur. I mean, he does add another Battle Destiny, so you're like, alright, I'm going to threaten even more Battle Destiny. Maybe that's all you're going to do, is move the Executor and Bosk in the Tooth and the shuttle over to Raltier and eat your order to engage and just try and stay ahead. Like, but the moment you eat that order to engage, like, you're going to lose it on the battle on your turn anyways. So I don't love any of this. And yep, there goes, passes battle phase, so he loses 2 off reserve, so he knew what was in reserve, and they were not what he wanted, and the barrier from hand. So now he's getting into move phase. Yep, the shuttle jumps on the Executor. I think you leave Boba Fett at Karita. I think you basically tell Brad, I don't believe you have more space. And yep, there's the shuttle and Executor moving over. There's Bosk in the Tooth moving over. So he is doing exactly that. He says, I don't think you have space. I'm going to try and keep some drains going. And again, Joe does have a little bit of an advantage of Brad's got to win by at least 5. Brad's going to win by 5 and win on lost piles, although right now he's definitely ahead on lost piles because there was only a 2-force difference on those lost piles. So, like, Brad still has to win by at least 5, and he's got a chance. So, and we see as he moved everyone over to the system, then he moves the biker scout that was in front of Luke and Han to the prefect's office, so he again keeps with the you only get 1 sight, you can't flip me back. And that's solid. Like, Brad's only going to drain for 1 here, but he's effectively got another drain of 3 going with order to engage. Because he says, look, I'm going to just stick guys in front of you, and your biker scouts don't really scare me. There's a drain of 0, adds 1 to it with Luke's Saber, so it's drain of 1. And there goes Royal Escort from hand. What in the... Royal Escort. Each of your 9 unique troopers on Endor or Death Star 2 is forfeit +1. Alright. And there's a Leia with gun backing up Obi-Wan. So again, he can kill both troopers, or both biker scouts, which puts him at forfeit 0 and gives him a chance to flip things over. I think you gotta move... There, he's going to move Obi-Wan over to the forest. You gotta move home 1 away. And Han moves over with Leia, so now they're drawing 2 battle destinies there. And again, shooting both of them, although they can use the biker scouts maneuver, so it's not a gimme, because I think they're maneuver 5. And yep, we see the home 1 move in front of Boba, which means, again, Joe's eating that order to engage damage. Like, without a way to cut off that order to engage, this is gonna end in Brad's favor. Brad's just got enough cards left to eat a couple of those drains and say, let's go. I don't know. So Joe activates 1. And are we going to see a search? Just like, I'm not sure what you're doing with just activating 1 right now. Let's see what he does here, because he's not battling for free, so like you're still going to have to activate a few to figure out what you want to do. Unless Brad's is interrupting with something like a out of commission, or just trying to, not sure what else he would be doing. Like, you're not going to Grimtash, he's only got 3 cards in hand, and you've lost a Grimtash, so Joe might just be doing the, I'm going to do one thing that I know I'm going to do while I tank a little bit, because you don't want the clock to run out on your thoughts, but you need to keep stuff moving. And he activates a couple more for us, so like, he knew he was going to activate a few. If you activate to give yourself more time to think, there is a timer in GAMP you run into. I believe it's a 5-minute inactivity timer. If you go 5 minutes without doing a game action, you just lose the game. And this is a way to give yourself a little more time to think. Is you just, alright, I'll activate a couple force and then think for a little while. Activate another one. Like, you knew he was going to activate a few anyways, so activating them one at a time doesn't hurt him at all. He ends up activating 2/7, leaving 2 in reserve, so that's basically 2 Destiny he wants to draw somewhere. I'm just not sure how those are going to help him. So we see the drain of 2 at the Home 1 War Room, or Home 1 Docky Bay, excuse me. And Brad loses a Twix from hand and a Twix from hand. And we'll probably see a drain of 1 at the jungle. Yep. And Brad loses a barrier off the top. So Brad's got 12 cards down again. He needs to win by 5. And he's comfortably still has enough cards to be in this game. Even though he's not really draining for a lot, he's also not excuse me, giving up a lot of, he's not doing a lot of damage, but he's not really taking a lot. And he is doing a lot because of Order to Engage. Like, Order to Engage is effectively a drain of 3 for him right now. And Joe searches for Force Lightning just to see what's in there. I don't know what he's looking for there. Like, I mean, in theory, if you got a good Destiny, you can try and battle with Fett, but like, you're down a bunch of power. There's Barrich on the Executor. I don't like that. I mean, Joe is doing stuff that would make a lot of sense if Order to Engage wasn't in play. The problem is Order to Engage is in play, and he doesn't have an answer for it, and he doesn't have anything he can do to just stop eating that Order to Engage damage. And Brad is smartly just saying, look, I don't need to do anything other than keep Order to Engage in play. Like, that's a drain of 3 right now. You know, like, Barrich alone there, I guess, are you going to move a Biker Scout up and be like, alright, I can really take down your Home 1, but unless you're sitting on a, as he loses Choke Vader from hand, a Speeder Bike from use pile, and a Desert from use pile, like, unless you're sitting on like a Gravity Shadow to lock Home 1 in place, like, you're not doing anything positive here. You're throw it on Barrich and do nothing. Like, there's no Biker Scout you shuttle up that is good right now. Like, anyone you shuttle up basically flips you back. And Brad's solidly in control. Like, this is not a good spot for Joe to be in. Kind of wondering and seeing if he's seeing that as well. So he loads the Falcon, or excuse me, the Emperor Shuttle onto Executor. Now disembarks the Emperor Shuttle. Now re-embarks the Emperor Shuttle, I'm betting, because there's no way you're doing anything other than that. Like, is just not a good spot. Like, I don't have a lot of... It's hard to do a lot of talking when what I'm looking at is, death rattle. We move the... Puts the shuttle on Executor, moves Janice over to a passenger on the Executor. Probably going to move Barrich as a pilot onto the Emperor's shuttle just to give him the extra power that'll add. And then maybe you're going to move the shuttle and Bosk over to Kurita and leave the Executor so it's harder to flip you back. But, like, at this point, Brad doesn't care about flipping him back. Brad just says, look, Order to Engage is doing work. And Order to Engage is doing a lot of work. Between Order to Engage and those Anger for Aggressions, he's done a lot of work. And instead, he shuttles Janice down in front of Luke. I guess, like, you're drawing at +4, so at that point your power is like 6 to 8. It's not terrible. But, like, again, Brad's fine in just saying, okay, you can do all that. I don't need to battle you, and you peel to Order. Like, if I'm Brad here, I might just not drain, move the home one away, and say thanks. Like, Brad doesn't gain anything from battling. I mean, if he's got another character in hand, you can drop it and battle into Janice potentially, but you are giving up a drain at +4. And Dan, it's almost like we've streamed a bunch together and he's watched me and knows what I'm going to say. But yeah, I don't like that move. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think there was a good move. Like, I think Joe is in a real bad spot unless he's got something magical that I'm not seeing. And Brad says, nope. Doesn't bother draining, doesn't even really activate. Throw in an Anger for Aggression just because. Throws down Draw Their Fire, which is really what's going to end this. And we're probably just going to see 3 battles on the ground. Like, and he might choose to not battle for free and instead use Beggar. Yep, so there he's going to use Beggar to use 1 to start the battle, which also triggers Draw Their Fire and stops Joe from being able to react at all. There goes the Swamp from hand. Yeah, this is over. Like, I mean, there's going to be some stuff to sort out as their Horbey takes a swing at the Biker Scout with a 5 and a 4. He got him. So, and looks like we didn't even use the Biker Scout. What was the... Oh, it was something else that would have allowed him to use the Biker Scouts thing. Doesn't really matter. There's a 1 for Battle Destiny. He's not trying to overflow him. He's fine with the Trooper dies, the Speeder Bike dies, and it's more the Draw Their Fire is just going to pound damage through as we see another battle started here with 2 Speeder Bikes. Brad's going to retrieve a force. He retrieves one of the zeros. Joe's going to lose a force, and Joe says, good game. And I expect we'll see a concession here as he can't get... And Joe says he was fishing for Point Man and realized he doesn't have it in the deck. That would... And that would have been it. Like, he needed Point Man to stop Order to Engage. Without Point Man, there's nothing... That Order to Engage is just brutalizing him. I expect we'll see a concession here as Joe has to lose a force. Oh, maybe not going to fully concede. He's going to let this play out and just take the battle damage. Because this is a differential tournament, standings are based on differential. A concession would make things a little goofy, so instead he'll just say, fine, I'll let this all go through. And, you know, his Biker Scouts are going to be forfeit 0. He's down. He'll be down some power after the Battle Destiny draws here. Although he, I mean, theoretically could not die, but there's not a lot of benefit to doing anything else here. Like, Brad's going to draw his 2 Battle Destiny. There's a 5, and which already puts him up 4 power, so anything other than a 0, there's a 2. I expect Joe just peels here and calls it a day. So he's at 7 for Battle Destiny. He's down 6 power. you can just, nope, he forfeits a Biker Scout Trooper and a Speeder Bike and a Biker Scout Trooper. Oh, Speeder Bike, and he jumps Misk off, and now he forfeits Misk as well, which flips him back to the 0 side, and now Janice is going to get the heck beaten out of him. Joe is effectively giving up a little bit of differential here, like he gave back a force or two that, he gave back at least the one on the Draw Their Fire that he didn't need to, because he certainly could have just peeled for the battle damage, but I don't think it's going to be particularly impactful. He's letting Brad have a couple more back. As Janice is hit, so he's down 6 here. This is going to be it. Like, it doesn't matter even, it doesn't matter what Brad draws. I don't think it doesn't really matter what Joe draws. There's a 4, so we got 12 to 2. I guess if Joe draws a 7, he's still technically alive. Joe does not draw a 7. That's a 3, so he's down by 7. Janice is forfeit 0, and he's got 5 cards left. That is game. He's just going to peel, yep. Which makes sense. That's all you can do at this point, is peel, and Brad wins this game by 15, which means he wins the match by 10. Well played, Brad. Congratulations on advancing to the finals. The other game, to see who you're playing against, is going on right now between Dr. Torch, Paul Todd Feldman, and Tony Peterson, Tony Duva, Tony the Swede, I believe I've seen him be called as well. So go over, watch that on Eddie Swolowski's stream. I'm going to go watch some football, y'all. Have a great Sunday. Everybody have a great week.